The cops said it was gang-related. Another black boy in the wrong place at the wrong time. Case closed. But his mother found the truth tucked inside a denim backpack under his bed, his handwritten journal. And in it, he named names. In Newark, New Jersey, 16-year-old Khalil Robinson is found dead behind an abandoned liquor store. Police blame gang violence and move on, but his mother, Monique, refuses to believe it. When she discovers Khalil's private journal filled with fears, patterns, and names, she realizes her son left behind the very clues that could solve his own murder. Now, with nothing but her grief and grit, Monique begins an unrelenting quest for justice that will expose a cover-up involving law enforcement, school politics, and betrayal far closer to home than she ever imagined. The rain hadn't let up since Tuesday. Monique Robinson stood under the broken street lamp at the edge of Madison and Prince, arms folded across her soaked hoodie, watching police tape flap like yellow wings in the wind. Behind it, a gurney disappeared into the back of a white van. Not an ambulance, no sirens. Just silence and silver doors that clicked shut like the end of a sentence. "He was just a kid," she whispered. A uniformed officer turned, glanced at her, then looked away like she was scenery. Khalil Robinson, her son 16 years old, loved comic books, couldn't stand pickles, once cried when they lost their cat, was lying inside that van. Shot twice. Found behind Red's Liquor off Prince Street, with no phone, no wallet, and his shoes missing. The cops called it likely gang-related. Just like that, likely, 2 days earlier. Khalil had come home late from school Monday. That wasn't like him. Monique remembered he was quiet. Not scared, not sad, just reserved. He ate half his dinner and left the rest cold. Then he went into his room and locked the door. She hadn't pried. Not that night. Now she wishes she'd kicked it in. At 3 a.m., Monique sat at the kitchen table in silence. The ceiling fan above her made a clicking noise, like a heartbeat out of rhythm. In front of her sat the plastic evidence bag they'd let her take home from the scene. It held Khalil's school ID cracked across the middle, like someone stepped on it. His gray beanie, and the blood-stained corner of a torn notebook page. But not his backpack. Not his phone. Not his journal. The detective Briggs shrugged when she asked. Could have been stolen, he said. Could have been, she repeated, numb. 3 weeks later, the house felt like a mausoleum. His room untouched. The world had moved on. The school held a memorial. The pastor said he was called home. The cops told her they'd let her know if anything new comes up. She didn't sleep. She cleaned, organized, washed sheets that didn't need washing. Until one day, she went to move his bed frame, and her fingers brushed fabric tucked in the floorboard crack. A denim backpack. Dusty. Hidden. She dropped to her knees. Inside, a phone, screen cracked but still powered on. A pencil case stuffed with rolled joints. And a composition notebook labeled, K. Private. If I'm gone, read this. Her hands shook as she flipped the first page. They think I don't notice. But I do. I see how Officer Neal watches us at dismissal, like we're zoo animals. I see him and Mr. Barnes talking near the back gate. Something ain't right at Central High. If anything happens to me, start there. Monique pressed the page to her chest like a Bible. Something shifted in her that moment. Grief hardened into fury. The house was still dark when Monique pulled a hoodie over her tank top and slipped Khalil's notebook into her purse. Her fingers gripped the strap like it was a weapon. She hadn't cried in 2 days. Not since she read those pages. She hadn't told anyone about the journal. Not her sister. Not Khalil's old football coach who kept texting prayers. Not even Detective Briggs, who'd stopped returning calls after that "no new leads" email last week. This wasn't for them. This was between her and her son now. At 6:42 a.m., Monique sat in her rust-colored Honda Accord outside Central High School, staring at the red brick building like it was a crime scene. The parking lot was nearly empty. Just a few buses idling, steam rising in the chilly morning air. She didn't go in. Instead, she pulled out the journal and turned to page 6. He calls them his runners. That's what I heard. Barnes hands him off to Neil after last period. They got corners even the older dudes won't touch. I ain't stupid. I seen what they pass under the bleachers. Monique didn't know who the runners were, but she damn sure knew Mr. Barnes. Vice Principal Richard Barnes. Clean haircut. Always wore those pastel button-downs and carried a clipboard like it was a badge. She remembered how he used to pat Hallel on the shoulder and call him Youngblood. And Officer Neil. School resource cop. White. Late 40s. Bald with an ego that entered the room before he did. Monique had clocked him from day one. Something about the way his eyes lingered on the boys in detention, like he was always assessing value, not potential. Value. At 10:10 a.m., she parked outside the East District Police Station with a legal pad in hand. She walked in like she belonged there, like she hadn't slept 3 hours and eaten nothing but coffee since Monday, like she was ready to burn this whole damn building down if that's what it took. Detective Briggs wasn't in. Of course he wasn't. A young officer with acne scars and a kind voice offered to take a message. Tell him Monique Robinson came by, about Khalil, again. You want me to write that you have new information? She paused, then nodded. And tell him, she said, voice steady. Khalil kept a journal, and it's not just poems. It's names, descriptions, timelines, pages that could crack this case wide open. The young officer's eyebrows lifted. He scribbled something on the clipboard. I'll get this to him today. You better. Back home, she laid out everything she had on the kitchen table like it was a war map. Khalil's phone, the beanie, a torn evidence slip, a list she was now building. Everyone Khalil mentioned, hinted at, or circled in his entries. She circled 2 names in red Sharpie, Mr. Barnes, Officer Neil. Then she underlined a phrase from entry number 14. They use the Saturday study hall as a cover, but kids go in and don't always come back. Dre said his cousin got sent to Camden. Ain't seen him since. That's when her heart dropped. Camden, an hour away, a pipeline city, high trafficking rates. Kids vanished all the time, and it barely made the news unless they were white or rich. She flipped back 2 pages and saw something she hadn't noticed before, a doodle in the margin. It was a crude drawing of a van. Next to it, 7YH9823, a license plate. Part of one, at least. That night, Monique logged into her old Facebook account and started messaging anyone Hallel used to hang with. She didn't ask if they missed him. She asked what they saw. Only one replied. Zay Johnson, from 3 blocks over. His message read, Yo, Ms. Monique, I don't know if I should be saying this, but I saw Khalil arguing with Officer Neil near the back gate like 2 weeks ago. Barnes was there too. It looked bad. I started walking the other way. She typed fast. Did he ever mention a van? Something about Camden? A white one? Yeah. I seen it a few times parked near the gym Saturdays. She stared at her screen. Her stomach clenched. It was real. All of it. Her boy hadn't been paranoid. He'd been hunted. By midnight, Monique had printed photos of Officer Neil and Barnes. She'd drawn lines on poster board, stuck post-its, circled the date of Khalil's last journal entry. It looked like something out of a crime show. But this wasn't TV. This was her kitchen. This was her son. And he'd written the first half of the story. She'd be damned if she didn't write the rest. Saturday morning came cold and gray, with fog curled low along the street like it was hiding something. Monique sat behind the wheel of her Honda, engine off, 3 blocks from Central High. She wore a black beanie, no makeup, and Khalil's old North Face zipped tight to her chin. In her glove compartment, a notepad, a phone charger, pepper spray, and tucked under a wrinkled manual, a slim kitchen knife she hadn't used in years. Her hands trembled, but her eyes didn't blink. It was 8:57 a. And like Khalil wrote in entry number 18, Saturday study hall starts at 9, but ain't no books in that room. At 9:11 a, Monique spotted it. A white Chevy van pulled into the staff lot behind the gym. No markings, no plates in the front. Tinted back windows, the kind of van every mother warned her kids about. Her breath caught. 7 each. The first half of the license was the same as what Khalil scrawled. The back plate was caked in mud, but partly visible. She angled her phone camera and snapped 5 photos. A man stepped out of the driver's seat, white, mid-40s, beard scruffy. Not a teacher, not any school staff she recognized. He walked around back, yanked open the doors, and waited. That's when another figure came out the back of the gym. Vice Principal Barnes, clipboard in hand, dressed in street clothes this time. No tie, no school ID. He didn't see her, didn't even glance toward the street. He nodded at the van driver, who nodded back. Then Monique's throat tightened. 2 boys exited the gym doors. One looked no older than 14. The van driver motioned. The boys climbed in. Barnes shut the door behind them, like it was nothing, like it was normal. Monique's hands squeezed the steering wheel so tight her knuckles burned. She kept snapping photos, each frame more damning than the last. The van pulled off, slow and smooth. She followed. 10:02 AMI 21 northbound. She kept 2 cars behind. The van didn't speed, didn't weave, just coasted along like it had all the time in the world. It passed the exit for the Newark airport. Then the signs changed. Kearney ... North Bergen. Camden to 60 miles. She couldn't follow all the way. Not without a plan. Not without backup. Monique pulled off at a Wawa parking lot and parked under a security camera. Her hands moved fast. She uploaded every photo to Google Drive, then emailed them to herself, her sister, and a Burge email she'd made at 2 a.m. just in case. Then she made a call, one she hadn't wanted to make. Detective Briggs. Don't hang up, Monique snapped. A pause. I'm listening. I just followed a van white Chevy, same tag Khalil wrote down. It picked up 2 minors from Central High. Barnes handed them off. I got pictures. And I want to know why the hell that van is headed toward Camden. You followed it? Damn right, I did. I've done more in 3 days than y'all have in a month. Briggs sighed. You need to send me those photos. They're already sent. But here's what you're not going to do. You're not going to bury this like you did Khalil. Mrs. Robinson. Don't Mrs. Robinson me. You want to fix this? Then meet me tonight. No uniforms, no paperwork. Just you, a quiet place, and some damn honesty. Another long pause. Fine. 10 o'clock. Behind the ShopRite on Springfield, the back lot. You come alone, too. Monique ended the call before he could say more. That night, the wind felt colder. The ShopRite lot was mostly empty. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. A few carts rattled in the breeze. Briggs showed up at 10:04 in a gray hoodie and black jeans. No badge in sight. He looked different, less sure. Monique handed him a flash drive. Every photo, plus Khalil's journal. Scanned pages. He didn't reach for it right away. I need to ask you something, she said, voice sharp. Were y'all protecting Barnes? Or were you just lazy? Briggs looked away. We had tips about Barnes before, but nothing stuck. No one wanted to move on it. Said he kept good stats, ran a tight ship. And what about the kids that disappeared? The ones Khalil wrote about? Most went unreported, or families didn't press. They said the kids were just running the streets. He swallowed. One even transferred to a charter across the state. We never confirmed it. No, you didn't confirm it. You just let it go. He finally took the flash drive. I want this reopened, she said. It'll take time. No, it'll take nerve. He looked at her, then really looked at her. Like he saw a mother, not just a file number. I'll dig, he promised. But you have to be careful. If this thing's as deep as it looks, you could be in danger. Monique stepped closer. I already am in danger. I'm a black mother in Jersey who dared to question the story they handed me. She turned and walked back to her car, eyes sharp, breath calm. Behind her, Detective Briggs stood frozen, flash drive in hand, already knowing this case wasn't just reopened. It was about to explode. It started with a name in Khalil's journal. Rico was scared. Saad Barnes told him not to talk or he'd never see his mom again. That was last spring. He stopped coming to class after that, but I saw him once at the bodega on 6th. He looked different. Quiet, like something had already died in him. Monique had circled that passage 3 times. Rico Dennison. Age 15. Vanished from Central High 9 months ago. No missing persons report. His mom, a nurse who worked double shifts, told the school. She assumed he'd gone to live with his cousin in South Jersey, but that cousin didn't exist. Monique knew because she found her. It took days and help from 2 of Khalil's old classmates who were now just as scared as she was, but she tracked down Rico. He wasn't in South Jersey. He was 3 neighborhoods away, living in a squat apartment above a pawn shop with a girl he barely knew and a mattress on the floor. His face was gaunt, his left eye bruised yellow and green. When Monique knocked on the door, he almost didn't open it. But when she said Khalil's name, he froze, then cried. They sat on the floor. Monique didn't ask for a story. She let him give it piece by piece. The study hall on Saturdays wasn't a real class. It was a sorting room. Barnes and Officer Neal would pick boys who were quiet, struggling, poor, the ones teachers overlooked. They'd promise money, sneakers, second chances. But it always started the same way. A test run. A favor. Then a delivery. They sent me to East Orange once. Side just hand the bag over and don't ask. Rico's hands shook, but I looked inside. It was pills. Thousands. He'd tried to quit. That's when the beatings started. They said if I told anybody, I'd end up like Khalil. I thought he left. I thought he got out. Monique felt her throat close. Rico reached behind an old radiator and pulled out a small red flash drive. I recorded Barnes once. He was yelling on the phone. Didn't know my phone was still recording. Said something about offloading to Camden and cops who keep their mouths shut. It's not much, but it's real. She took the drive like it was holy. Monique met Detective Briggs the next morning outside the Newark Star-Ledger office. She didn't care about chain of custody or red tape anymore. She wanted the truth to bleed out. Inside that flash drive was Barnes's voice, angry, unguarded, naming names. Rico's testimony was shakier, but with Khalil's journal, photos of the van, and Monique's timeline, it was more than enough to blow the case wide open. Briggs listened in his car. When it ended, he didn't speak for 30 seconds. You realize, he said finally, this'll burn people who've been untouchable for decades. Good, Monique said. Let it burn. 6 weeks later. Headline: Vice Principal, Police Officer among 7 indicted in juvenile trafficking ring. Subheader: Local mother's persistence and late son's journal sparked statewide investigation. Monique stared at the newspaper in her kitchen. The same table where she'd first laid out Khalil's belongings now held a neat stack of court subpoenas and victim statements. Rico had been placed with a safe foster family and was working with a therapist. 3 other boys had come forward. 2 more had been quietly found in halfway homes across state lines. Barnes had tried to run. He didn't make it past Trenton. At Cowell's grave, the grass was still patchy from the winter. Monique knelt anyway, brushing leaves from the base of the headstone. She'd brought a copy of the paper and folded it neatly. Tucking it under the ceramic flower pot she kept filled with fresh silk dahlias, his favorite. "I kept my promise," she whispered. There were no tears left that day, just wind and silence, and something close to peace. That night, Monique climbed into bed and reached for Khalil's journal, what remained of it. Some pages were now court exhibits, others she'd memorized. But she always stopped on the first one. If anything happens to me, start here. She had. And now, others would finish the rest. Some stories don't end with a verdict. They echo in quiet rooms, in broken trust, and lives forever altered. This wasn't just a case file. It was a warning about what happens when fear replaces facts, when systems protect themselves, and when good people look away because it's easier. What happened here could happen anywhere, because injustice doesn't need a reason, just an opening. So if this story reached you, don't let it vanish. Speak up. Share it. Start the ripple. Because every time we shine a light, we take power from the shadows. And maybe, just maybe, the next story won't end the same. Like, comment, share. Let your voice join the case.